Hi, everyone. This is Sandra Ingerman, and we're back from a break. Renee and I took a break from the Shamans tape, but we really missed you, and we wanted to come back and continue during these amazing times of growth and amazing times of challenges. And so we're really happy to be back with all of you.
And I'm Renee Baribeau, the practical shaman. And I know it's been a long time because Sandra and I talked before, and so we haven't talked in months either. And it's been a very productive time for me, and I know that it's been a very productive time for Sandra. And we're hoping that this break was a really productive time for you as well. Although we have a change that we want to tell you about. And we've decided that we are going to do this as a podcast, which means for those of you who watch on YouTube, you'll see a streaming nature scene or whatever other images we come up with. But the best place to be listening to this will be on the place where you get your podcasts going forward. And I think that it'll be a nice change. And I hope that you'll then take us with you in your car and other places that you go on your walks. Although I walk quietly, but maybe you listen to podcasts. And then we're going to go on from there.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that it's starting to affect them to be on Zoom all the time. And and I asked Renee if she was willing to do this audio because it's too hard for me to be on Zoom all the time. It started affecting me too. And so you still have us to listen to, and we're still going to guide you through how you can take care of yourself during this time, because I think so many people in the spiritual community are doing incredibly deep work, but a lot of people in the spiritual community entered the spiritual community thinking that the community would carry them through the times that we're going through right now. And so, what Renee and I want to talk about today is the fact that nobody can carry you through the times that we're going through today, but that if you can find safety inside yourself, in your inner world, creating this incredibly strong inner world where you feel so safe in your own body. Once you feel so safe in your own body, you actually know that your spirit, that your body's carrying your spirit, and spirit is a reflection of source, and source can't be hurt. So that we would like to give you some tips in a time where people are really not feeling safe right now, of little things that you can do that can start helping you not look to the outer world for somebody to carry you through, but to remember that you were born with the strength to walk through these times.
Such a such a great topic. I think that we're starting with here. And if we go back to the beginning of last year, I had this beautiful fire tender ceremony, and I was at peace for like really, really at peace with the community, at the ceremony, at all of it. And the very next day, my world fell apart, and I was shocked. I was shocked that some kind of exterior incident could put me into that kind of a frozen tailspin. And, luckily, and this is what Sandra and I want for you, is that luckily I had the tools. I had the tools to look at something, from the inside out. I had the friends who could support me on that journey. And I actually took a break from the community which I felt was not necessarily supporting me or supporting the place that I was in. And when I really listened to what happened and what I really listened to going inside, that it was actually one of the most productive years that I had, even though it started out with a shock that put a cysto shock that sent me into frozen.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people are in frozen right now. A lot of people. I am a therapist, and so I do have to keep getting CEUs. And what all I'm doing is taking trauma workshops, and and I can tell you that most of the spiritual community is in a frozen state right now, and we don't even know it. So it's really important for us to really start to honor, and that's the first place where we can start to find safety. So, like, for me, what starts to happen, just to give an example, maybe some of you might relate to some of this. Occasionally, I just feel like I need a break from all the emails that I'm getting, and so I do a very I do something that you shouldn't do. I go to the news just to take a break and see what else is going on besides what's happening in my in the shamanic world, and I'll read an article and I'll go, oh yeah, I think that's what's happening for me, and then I'll read an article and go, oh yeah, that's what's happening for me, and then I'll read something, oh, that's what's happening for me, and then I listen to somebody's intro call, oh, and that's what's happening for me, and then I listen to Renee and I go, oh, she just tuned in on something that's happening for me. And I've been doing this for 9 years now because I contracted a very mysterious disorder. So it's like, oh, Renee said, oh, that's what happened to me. The news said, oh, that's what happened to me. And so I completely abandoned my intuition, which I've written about in Walking Through Darkness. The first chapter is don't listen to other people, listen to your intuition. I wrote that because for 9 years I didn't listen to myself. And so what happened is I got into a frozen state because I listened to everybody else instead of my own body. My own body was trying to talk to me and I wouldn't listen to it. I was listening to everybody else. And so it threw me into bed and it said, okay, you're frozen. And so then I started doing all the tools I've written about in Medicine for the Earth and Soul Retrieval and new tools that I'm learning in all these trauma courses I'm taking. And as I started just tuning into my body started talking to me and it told me everything it wanted, everything I wasn't listening to for 9 years because I was listening to everybody else. And I started getting better. And at the same time, the universe started sending me so many breadcrumbs. I can't tell you how many breadcrumbs the universe showed me of, okay, now that you're finally in your body listening, here's your path. It's really clear. We put the blue cornmeal as blue as we could for you, knowing that's the path you're going to follow. We made the path so clear. Here's your path now. You finally went inside and listened to yourself, and now the universe, as the universe, we can help you.
Hmm. I love that. I love that, following that blue cornmeal path. Yeah, I had a similar thing. And the thing is the information for me never seems to come from the places where I'm looking at it from. So last year, when all of this was going on in January, I got this email from somebody I hadn't talked to in 10 years. And he said, "Oh, I have a gift for you." And so he actually mailed me the wind map. And I wrote him back and I'm there, "Well, thank you. That is so generous." And then when I was getting ready, because the Camino came up, he said, "I can't walk this year. Would you please walk for me?" And I mean, this man, he's just popped in twice in a year. Like I hadn't really, 10 years we hadn't spoken. And so it started these conversations with me, and and the spirits of the land in when I was in Portugal and Spain. And then I thought, well, this is the only way I can walk with them. I'll take a picture, I'll take videos and I'll send them. And I got back and I was like lying in bed one day and they're like, "Well, I sent him all these videos. Why haven't I heard from him?" Well, it turns out this man died the day I started walking.
My goodness.
And he inspired a whole series, and I'm getting chills, and a whole book.
Mm,
And so we're always looking for outside messages, and they might come on the wisp of a mail postage from somebody you haven't even heard from in years, that you don't even know, that you don't even respond to make such a big difference in your life. And these messages will come all the time when you res- when you can respond from your heart. He clearly sent these from his heart,
mm,
and I clearly responded from my heart. And I I wasn't seeking. It was seeking me.
yeah, yeah.
I think you know him too, Sandra.
Mm,
Um, so it was quite a surprise when I woke up one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and it said, I go, and they said, "Oh, he's not here anymore." And
right,
so I got on, I went on, and I'm there like, "Oh my word, he died the day I started walking."
right. Yeah, and that pilgrimage took you so inner. It was really it, it was really when you came back, Renee, that we decided to take a break from the show. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
both of us were uh, not going through challenges; we were going through changes, inner
Mm-hmm.
changes, and we both felt that we needed a little bit of quiet. Um,
Mm-hmm.
to allow ourselves, and the quiet for me was finally listening to my body. And once I started listening to my body, it wouldn't stop talking.
Chatterbox.
So I had a lot to do. And for you, it was once you were on that pilgrimage and got out of your regular routine and went into this really deep place. It was, I'm going to stay here for a little while and do my work,
Mm-hmm.
do my cards, and do my book, and really do that inner work so that what I'm producing came from such a deep and beautiful place inside of me.
Yeah, and so I encourage all of you to do that. For 10 years I've been researching the winds, and for 10 years I've been trying to find somebody outside of me to do the drawings, the paintings of them. And my friends kept saying, if we do, those are the breadcrumbs too. No, no, you have to do the art. And so finally I thought, well, I'm not talented enough to do the art. But then I discovered that with my, I'm a graphic designer, and with what I can do with Illustrator and with some of the new AI technology, that I was able to do the art. But the book was the surprise. The cards were coming for 10 years, and now they're at print and they're selling like hotcakes on my website. But the book took me into a new direction, because all I've been talking about is the wind and shamanism. But the walking book is about pilgrimage. It's about going in. It's about taking the risk to go to a foreign country and challenge myself to walk 10, 14 miles a day, when I didn't believe I could. I bought El Camino hats thinking that I'm giving myself permission to take a cab from town to town, and I didn't. I walked. I took a couple cabs here and there, but not after 10, 12 miles of walking. I'm like, yeah, I think I'll take a cab for the last 2 miles. I can't do this anymore. And I listened to my body because I wanted to get up the next day and be able to walk again.
Mhm. Yeah, and so it's really a time right now where with people, I'm really watching. I just taught finished teaching a 1 year practitioner training, which was amazing. It was wonderful to be back in person teaching again. And we just finished soul retrieval. I haven't had the opportunity to teach a 5 day soul retrieval workshop since before the pandemic. And, this has been my life. And so this was such a joy. And so, in going through this training, and seeing how deep, we really work to go into our inner world once our soul comes back, and really looking at what beliefs did we take on that we heard from others, and how do we let those go, and how do we find what our purpose is in life, and that once we find our purpose, we stand up, and our past can be healed because now we have a present and a future that we're passionate about walking towards. And so it's really important, because in the different work that I'm doing right now of looking at how the trauma work has changed from when I first started teaching soul retrieval and wrote soul retrieval, it actually hasn't changed that much. But there are certain things I can see that are very important. And from the time that we were working in a different generation, we didn't have computers, and we didn't have all the EMFs that are going on. We didn't have people sitting so much. People were still walking. You had to run for a bus, you had to run for a train. Things are just different now. And so people's bodies are really getting impacted by the stress of our environment, by the stress of the pollution, by the stress of watching the news, by the stress of seeing so much being destroyed in front of our eyes, that it's really important to protect our own nervous system, because it can really be affected by what's going on in a way that past generations didn't have to deal with it in the same way we have to do with it now. Like my mother's generation, they had so many challenges, the war, the not having food, everything, but they walked. They had to move all day long. You didn't have time. You weren't sitting there letting all this nervous energy build up. You were humming, you were singing all day long. There was constant movement. In indigenous cultures, they're seeing that there aren't the illnesses that come from trauma that we're seeing in the West right now, because people moved all the time. They didn't have the choice to sit down and watch Zoom and languish or do other things. And so we're at a time where um, it's really up to you to take care of yourself and to set boundaries for yourself right now, and to really look at how much did you take on from other people? How many beliefs did you take on from other people, so that you forgot your own strength, and you forgot the resilience that you were born with, and you forgot the reason that you wanted to be here, which is why we came. There was a reason we all wanted to be here. And I don't think you can get those kinds of answers to how to set boundaries and why did you come here, what your destiny is, what your passion is, what your purpose is, unless you really go within. Because where else are you going to get that information? Because it's coming from you. And so it's how do you make that kind of time? And instead of thinking about it, going into your heart and starting to have conversations with your heart, starting to have conversations with your body, and letting go of the shoulds. I should probably do this, or this might work, but actually listening to your heart and listening to your body. And that takes a pilgrimage into the inner world, deep into your inner world.
Mm.
And that's where you find safety.
There's a chapter in a Pilgrim's Guide to Walking Wisdom called "Let Go of the Shoulda, Wouldas, and Couldas." So we're right on track there. But that kind of brings us around to a close on this segment of this, is that we're not here to fix you. We're not here to teach shamanism. We're not here to we're way showers. We're two women who face our own inner demons and hold community in the highest esteem. And we're holding a circle here, but we're hoping that within this circle that you can go deeper in yourself. Stop asking us the stupid questions that we're not going to answer, because that's not our job. If you have a question that you just want to hear yourself say in the group, you might want to go outside, call to your spirit guide and ask there, and then come back and tell us the answer you got. Hey, I took a wind walk today. And when I was on my wind walk, you know what? The spirit started talking to me, just like that man who sent me a gift. And I didn't know what the gift was, but I'm there like, well, how can I incorporate this gift into my life? And something greater comes from it. Let us be the gift you unwrap that can take your work deeper so that you can start to explore your own self and go even further in your own practices. Because otherwise it's not of interest for us to answer the questions we already answered 6 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and turn it into some play. When some of the questions that you're asking, I actually play with. So, like, there was a question that came up, how do you interpret messages? So, I was at the river the other day with Woods, and we just wanted to take a little break. And I got 3 omens on that day. First, a bee came in front of my Ring camera at home and danced in front of the Ring camera. How many people have ever seen a bee dance in front of a Ring camera and look at it and have pictures of it? Then I went to the river and a trout jumped up, did some salts, and then a dragonfly, the biggest dragonfly I think I've ever seen, started circling. And instead of me running home and looking in books or emailing Renee, or I really don't know what those 3 omens meant. I really don't. But I'm having so much fun playing with it. It was a few days ago, and so I go, well, oh, it could be this and it could be this, and I'm just playing with it. And when you play with it, all of a sudden you go, that's it, I got it. So, what we're talking about of working in the inner world and facing your demons also involves an amazing amount of play, of not taking yourself so seriously and not taking what's happening in the world so seriously, because we know we came here to live out a role, but what's happening is not true reality.
That's really great. It reminds me that last year in the fall, I took a painting class with my friend and I painted a bear. And I have a series of paintings of bears, but I hadn't painted the bear in years. Looks like all the other bears. It's the same spirit bear. So I went the first night in Portugal, a bear came in my dream. You're going to have to read my book if you want to know what the bear was doing. Then when I got back from Spain about a month later, the bear showed up again. But when I was writing, I realized I'd gone back to some dream journals that the bear had showed up after I painted the bear, before I even went back and had all of the other things happen. So sometimes when you see something like, the dragonflies or the bees dancing, it'll become more clear in 4 or 5 or 6 months. And we have to remember that, this is a life. This isn't like, you're not always going to get all your answers today. And I've kind of made sense about what the bear wanted from me. And I couldn't put it all together until much later. So sometimes hold those questions for about 6 months and really then see what your answers are.
Yeah, yeah, because the inner world works pretty slowly. Our outer world is moving way too fast for us, and I'm sure there isn't a person listening to this podcast who doesn't agree with it. And I know I can only say for myself, my body is asking me to slow down. And that's the only way that I can really relate to nature and my body right now, because my body doesn't move as fast as the rest of the world is moving right now.
Well, on that, I think that we're back. What we suggested, following us on some of the other podcast channels, whether it's Apple or wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, we're on all of them. And then if you are a YouTube subscriber, know that you're not going to see us. You're going to hear the audio with some nice pictures. So you'll still get it that way. And we look forward to being back with you and seeing what comes up for us to talk about.
Yeah, it's great to be back, and take care, everyone.